So first of all, obviously you're in the middle of a tour. How's the tour going?
Very good, yeah. I mean, it's been a pretty intense tour. Like, I think it's going to be 38 dates in total. This is like the fifth last one. Had about 5 days off in a month and a half. So it's been pretty intense, but amazingly rewarding. You know, it's great. Playing live shows is what it's all about, and seeing fans and stuff, and that reaction is why we do it, essentially. So.
And any highlights so far?
It's been loads of highlights. Playing in places that we haven't been to before, like small towns like Leamington Spa. It was sold out. It's, you know, tonight's like pretty much sold out. Like tomorrow in Exeter sold out. We haven't played in these places before, and there's hundreds of people coming to watch us. So that's they kind of have been the highlights, really, and that's the reason we did this tour. Essentially, you know, we could have done a tour post album that was 7 days long in the major cities, but we wouldn't have maybe seen all the people that we've seen. So, you know, because if we're, you know, the closest place to Linc we might have played is like, you know, Birmingham or Manchester. It's quite far away. So, yeah, we thought we wanted to give something to the people that invest in us. So.
And you say it's your first time at Lincoln. How are you finding Lincoln?
We love it. I mean, our guitarist and our sound guy are both from Lincoln. They're brothers, so they grew up here. And yes, we come here a lot. If we're ever playing in Nottingham, we'll stop at theirs. And yes, it's a lovely place. The cathedral's beautiful, but we've never been in this part of town and around the university. It's quite cool. It's got a lot going on.
And one thing I saw on social media that was quite interesting is you and your support act, I believe, had a football match. Right, what was the end result?
We didn't actually. Well, I mean, it didn't end up being us versus them, because there was only 4 of them and 5 of us. And then we also we roped a couple of kids that were like around the park in, but we would have absolutely smashed them.
Any more matches on the horizon?
Oh, we'd love to. I think after Nottingham, we're staying in Lincoln again, and so are they. So we might rekindle that. So.
Obviously, the first album, that was the debut album. What was that response to that like? How did you kind of get? Well, in terms of that response, obviously it was a huge response. What did that feel like for you and the band?
I don't know. It's hard to quantify. We had no preconceptions of how big we wanted to be. Obviously, we wanted to be as big as we possibly could be, but we just feel really fortunate that we're able to continue, and that we've got a strong enough fan base to do that. And we just want to reach as many new people as possible. And you know, the second album's starting to pick up pace now, so it's good. It's great. We're starting to get heard by more people, which is always what you want. So.
And you said you had an idea of how big you want to be. Do you think you've got there yet, to that level where have you got to that point where you're like, yes, we've made it now?
I don't think we ever will. Do you know what I mean? We strive to be. You know, we want to be headlining festivals and stuff eventually. You know, that's our aim, and we want to have a long career. Like, and if we're fortunate enough to be afforded that, then that would be great. And you know, there's not a lot of money in music and in bands really anymore, so it's tough to carry on. And we've, like I keep saying, we feel really fortunate that we were able to make a second record, and we're going to be able to make a third record. So we feel like we're in a really lucky spot.
And obviously, the kind of debut album for a lot of bands, kind of getting your name out there, kind of telling people this is what you're all about. So, kind of looking at this album, then This Life, what was your kind of aim or kind of ambitions when it came to making this album? What did you kind of want to do with it?
We wanted to be really honest, basically. And there's a lot of themes on the album that deal with the struggles of being in a band, and how that affects relationships and friendships and personal life, you know. So there's things about depression on the album, and anxiety and all that sort of thing. We tried to touch on, but ultimately the music we want to make is positive and uplifting and makes people feel good. Because when we play live, we're kind of a festival band. We want each show to feel like a celebration, essentially. So we wanted to keep that aspect of ourselves, and not divert away from where the first record was, really. But you know, kind of we're older now. You know, we wrote that record when we were in our early 20s, and now we're in our late 20s, and we're different people, I guess. So it's kind of a little bit more mature. There's a bit more space, whereas the first record was maybe like, you know, really hard hitting and euphoric, and 100 miles an hour really. Like this second record's got a bit more space, a bit more down tempo moments, and yeah, it just feels a lot more of a more rounded record.
And moving away from the debut album being the second album, was that kind of dreaded second album pressure that comes with that situation?
We didn't really have it, because with our first record we were in the UK and Europe, we were signed with Warner, and we've moved away from them now for the second record, and I don't think we felt any kind of pressure really, because we're on a really good label, we've got a really good management who look after us really well, and you know, I think we've always been, even when we were with Warner, they didn't really tell us what they wanted, you know, we were kind of fortunate in that way, and now that we've moved away, we're even more so. It's kind of like we can really do what we want, and our aim is to steadily build over the next few albums and really build up a strong, you know, if we can have 4 albums by the end of like 2020 or something, you know, then, or 2021 or whatever, then we feel like we've got a huge body of work then that, you know, the bands like, I'm sort of waffling here, but bands like Foals and the Maccabees kind of, you know, they grew and grew and grew over the course of like their career, so we just want that essentially. We want to keep doing this for as long as possible. So.
In terms of the band's formation, it's kind of came around at university. So what was that like, kind of balancing music with studies and all the kind of joys that university life can bring?
It was interesting. When we first started, we weren't a very good band at all. Like we weren't very good musicians. So it took us a while to get good really. During university, we were just kind of like doing it in our spare time, and it was kind of a hobby. And then when we finished university, we were like, oh, we really enjoy this. Let's just get jobs where we can work on the weekend, and then we just rehearse for 4 days a week for like 2 years solidly, lived together and just lived and breathed music really, and that made us good. And then we've all been together for about 9 years or whatever, but as Coast, it came about after those 2 years of writing together, and we were kind of getting a bit lost, and we were like, right, let's boil it down to what we are as people and where we are in life and stuff. And started to, we just kind of pressed the reset button and came up with Coasts, essentially.
And in terms of that songwriting process then, is what kind of comes first? Is it the kind of instrumental side and then you kind of add the lyrics, or is it the other way around? How do you come up with the song?
A lot of the time it's the music that comes first. So me and Liam write the music for the band. So usually he'll get like a rough like vibe or a track laid down, and then he'll send it to me, or we'll get together and I'll come up with like melodies, and then we'll work through that and then come together as a band and then flesh it out fully. So it's kind of changed, the process has changed a lot over the years, because when we were living together it was a lot easier. We should be in the practice room jamming, and then when we moved, there was a point where we all moved away, because we're not all obviously we met at university, so we're not all from the same place, and so I moved back to Bristol, back to home, and the rest of the band kind of moved to Essex and Brighton or wherever they're from. So we had to do it over the internet and like send files across, and then we'd meet up every couple of weeks and be like, oh, okay, let's play through this. And yeah, like Oceans was one of the first that we wrote in that process. And so we were like, oh, this kind of works, because we've just written our best song. You know what I mean? Like, it like feels good. So we carried that on for a while, and then I live in London now, so it's really, I just go down to Brighton a lot, and me and Liam, chill out down there and write together.
Are you all still kind of dotted around the country now at the moment?
Yeah, we are. Yeah. It works because of touring and stuff. Like, we don't necessarily need to, and we're really, really super good friends. So it's not like we're.
So it's quite easy, because I kind of thought that everyone being so far away, does that kind of put a strain on the band at all, or is it quite flexible?
It's actually puts less strain on the band. It was when we were living together, it was harder, because we're with each other the whole time, and that can get quite, if you're with, as you may know, if you're with someone like 24 hours a day, like, it gets pretty intense. So it's good that we have our own friendship groups outside of the band and stuff, and it's great. Like, it works. We come together and it's like we haven't been apart, so it's great. Yeah. Obviously,
while you're on tour, you're obviously hanging out with the band members a lot. So what's that like? What's the relationship like with your other band members?
It's good, man. Like, it's really good. Like, we're really close. We're really, really super close. And I couldn't imagine being in a band with any other people, to be honest. Like, we've been a band essentially for like 10 years almost, and it's it's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a long time, but it's great. It's great, man. Like we love touring, and we love going to new places and places we've been to before as well. Like going to those places again. It's great.
And in terms of producing this second album, then you said it's quite a personal album. What song was the easiest to produce from the album? Which one did you think was quite the hardest to make out of the lot?
There were a few that took a while to come together. Others didn't, like Come On Over came together really quickly, and we had a vibe, and it was like, oh, it's wicked, it works. Take Me Back Home was one that kind of went through, during the writing process, it went through a load of different changes, and it was like sped up by like 10 BPM and then pulled it back loads, and it's like, yeah, it went through loads of changes, but it's one on the album that, like, when that happens and when you come out with a song at the end of it that's great, it feels really good. You feel like you get that same buzz that you do when you write a song in 10 minutes. You just get it later. Do you know what I mean?
And you said a little while back actually about how music today is kind of a bit difficult. I can't remember what you said exactly, but in terms of the music scene at the moment, it's quite hard to get into, you know, very hard for bands to debut. What tips would you give to yourself if you started out now? And in terms of future bands, obviously trying to get their name out there, it could be quite difficult. So do you have any tips or advice for them?
Just as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, just keep going and believe in yourself. Like it took us a long time to get noticed, and also to find ourselves really within the music we were making, to kind of like realise that, you know, this is the sound that best reflects our personalities and where we're feeling, how we're feeling at that period in time. But yeah, just to, like, if you enjoy what you're doing, just put everything into it, and don't pull back at all, and like be as honest as you can be.
And this album, This Life, which came out in August, it's This Life Volume 1. So is there going to be a This Life Volume 2 coming anytime soon?
There may be, yeah, potentially. Yeah, no, it's, the idea with it, I've always like been into, you know, artists that, you know, they release mixtapes, so particularly like urban artists, they'll like release, you know, tons of music. They'll just keep releasing like random singles and stuff. So when we wrote the album, it was like, okay, we'll give it this name and then we'll see what happens. But yeah, maybe potentially.